that, right?
I can record it.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate
We're
it.
recording.
Okay.
We're recording right now. Okay, so
Okay.
the first component. Let's start with FireEye. So FireEye is the company, okay, and
Mhm.
they have different products. The one that I'm familiar with is the endpoint security, which is FireEye HX. But they also have additional software suites that provide different kinds of benefits. Helix, network security and forensics, email security, cloud security, detection on demand. So they have more than just one suite of software. What I'm familiar with is FireEye HX, which is the endpoint security. And that basically puts an agent on every computer that you want to have regular access to your network so that you can see what that computer is doing when it's connected to your network. For instance, my FireEye agent is on my Windows, on my virtual Windows machine. So that means whenever I'm on my virtual Windows machine, anything that I'm doing, it's technically quasi recording it, if that makes sense. So that if I download a malicious file or I go to a malicious website, you're going to be able to research that in FireEye HX and see, did I navigate to that website or did I download that file from an email that I received? You're actually able to see all of the processes that are running. So you can actually go through and follow the dots and look at the parent process, which is in, like, for instance, in my Windows machine, the main process that's running. You can look at the child processes that actually kind of happen underneath that parent process. So you can realistically see more of the picture of what happened and how it happened. So sometimes that can tell you whether somebody did something purposefully or whether they did it by accident. Maybe they clicked on a link in a phishing email and they didn't realize it. Things like that. There are other platforms, there are other software platforms that they have provide different services for different things. So in our network, what we're familiar with is the FireEye HX, which is our endpoint security.
Oh, I'm sorry. FireEye HX means endpoint security. They call it also FireEye HX, that right? But they didn't add FireEye after HX. FireEye general company, right? But it has also FireEye HX, right? All
Correct.
right.
Yeah, so when you're talking about FireEye HX, you're talking about the endpoint security.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. All right.
Does that make sense?
Yes, yes.
All right. Now, Nessus is a vulnerability scanner. Um, so for instance, you actually can, and this is something you can do on your home network. Do you have just a Wi-Fi network at your house, or do you have a wired network at your house?
Wi-Fi. I have modem we're using as a Wi-Fi.
Okay. So what you can actually do is you can actually sign up for a free, like a temporary access to Tenable Nessus, so you can download it to your computer. And what you can do is you can actually run vulnerability scans on your network on all of your devices that are connected to your Wi-Fi, as long as they're in the same, network, subnet and so forth, which I assume they probably are, based depending on how many devices you have in your Wi-Fi network. You can actually run the scanner and it'll tell you if there's any vulnerabilities. For instance, my daughter had an older laptop that she was using for just local things. She has her Chromebook that she uses to go to the internet, but she had her laptop that she uses for her music stuff. It wasn't connected to the internet, so it wasn't a vulnerability to me and my network. But what I did is I ran my scan on my network with that computer having Wi-Fi access, and Nessus picked up on that laptop and told me about the fact that it's a vulnerable laptop because it had Windows 7. Windows 7 was very vulnerable to SMB, or like a remote access attack on basically utilizing some vulnerabilities within Windows 7. Now, there were patches but it was still a vulnerable machine. So the cool thing about when I ran my scan on my home network is it totally showed me that that laptop was vulnerable. So me as my, obviously the network engineer of my particular home network, I could see, hey, there's a big weakness that if I don't take care of it, um, somebody could get in potentially to my network utilizing that vulnerability in that laptop, and then try to pivot to other devices within my network. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So it goes out and scans the network, and it looks at the IP addresses within the network and looks at those machines, and in essence runs a pretty deep scan on all of those pieces of equipment to tell you if you've got vulnerabilities there. There were some other vulnerabilities that it found as well, but they were really minute vulnerabilities. Nothing major. That was the big one. That was the big red flag that I was able to fix. And actually, since then, we've decided she's going to use that laptop a little more predominantly. So we've actually upgraded it to Windows 10, and we've added more RAM to it. And if I run my Nessus scan, it won't show that laptop as a vulnerability any longer because it's not running Windows 7 anymore. It's running Windows 10 now. So that vulnerability is now gone because I patched that system. I upgraded that system. So when you run a vulnerability scan on a network, you basically have the opportunity to fix whatever is vulnerable, patch an outdated software, update an outdated software, open or close ports that are open ports, things like that. So you can address those items utilizing Nessus or any other sort of vulnerability scanner. Does that make sense?
Yes. How about companies? Companies, I forgot also this attack name. If somebody see this company has some vulnerability in their files or folders, they are attacking. How about company, the cybersecurity analysis, they, how they are, scanning this vulnerability in the company. For example, you gave some example for home network, how about company, they have 2,000-3,000 PC, and then how they check that, or they check server or just the computers?
It's really kind of the same thing, but you would have to run the vulnerability scanner on all the different subnets. So when you have a large network like that, it's usually divided up into smaller networks. Like maybe the whole billing department is on one subnet, and the accounting department is on another subnet. Sales is on a third subnet. And maybe let's say they're all in one building, and you have a whole other building and they have their own subnets as well too, but then they're all connected to the same overall larger network. So you can run the vulnerability scanning on the different subnets of that enterprise. So it's just on a larger scale. Now you also can do penetration testing. So that's a little bit different scenario where you're actually trying to take advantage of some of the vulnerabilities to see if you can actually get into the network. And some larger companies will have their own on-staff penetration testers. Some will hire outside companies to come in and actually do penetration testing on their network. It really just depends on the company and what they're willing to do or wanting to do, depending on their cost, how much they want to spend, or how important it is to protect the data or protect the information that's inside their networks. So it really kind of depends on the network. in a smaller network like we've been familiar with, there's not as many variables. So you might be able to do a more simple vulnerability scan and see if there's any vulnerabilities. How an individual outside of our network might try to take advantage of vulnerabilities. They might do nmap scans, or they might utilize some other scan functionality to be able to find our public facing IP addresses and so forth, and see if there's any vulnerabilities they can take advantage of to try to exploit those vulnerabilities. And then you're talking about, you know, the cyber kill chain and developing their method for attacking that network. So the first thing you have to do is your reconnaissance, right? So
Yes.
when you're doing your reconnaissance, you're trying to find out, how can I get into this network? Um, do I need to send somebody a phishing email to get access? Is there a vulnerability in their public facing IPs that I can easily exploit? And then you're creating your payload, you're creating your attack type, you're creating your vector for getting into that network and building your attack type so you can actually get into that network. Is that kind of making a little bit of sense?
Yes, miss.
As a protectionary measure, being able to scan your network just allows you to look at those vulnerabilities before somebody, you know, a threat actor has an opportunity to take advantage of it. So that's where your vulnerability scanners can come into play. And it really can work the same way on a larger scale. There's many more variables, you know, different subnets, different buildings, different geographies, where you may have to take, you know, a lot more steps to be able to check for those vulnerabilities, as opposed to just one particular vulnerability, you know, one small network. So, granted, I haven't done vulnerability scanning or, you know, penetration testing on a larger environment. I've only done real small stuff in our small network. So I'm not real, you know, real versed in being able to do that, but logically it kind of makes sense. So that's kind of the major difference between a larger environment and a smaller environment, in my opinion.
From the Cyber Now labs, you know, they couldn't set up yet second time for me. And then, is there any just few minutes scenario you can show, you know, about the Nessus, if it's possible, or for the, you know, for
Yes. So
game?
I was actually going to show you Nessus, but unfortunately my free trial ran out. So I don't know if they'll let me.
Do you have in the Cyber Now labs? You know,
No,
you have it.
no, we don't have access to it in CyberNow Labs, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah, the only thing that I did was the free one on my own network. And you listen, you can do that as well. If you go to
Okay.
Nessus, you can download this for free. Here, I'll copy the website and share it in our chat.
Okay.
You can go there, and right when you go to the website, right here on the left-hand side, just set up this free access. And then what you can do is there are people out there that have shared videos on YouTube on how to do the scan. So
Okay.
maybe see if you can find a YouTube that'll show you how to do it, and just walk along with it and let it scan your network and see if you've got any vulnerabilities, and then you can get a better feel for how it works.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, great. Thank you. Yes.
As far as Wireshark, now I know Wireshark can be, there's a lot obviously with Wireshark. So
I'm sorry, do you remember you showed us last time, you know, the Wednesday about Wireshark?
yep, as a matter of fact, I actually have, so I have the video that I'm currently working on that I'm going to upload to YouTube. I don't know if you saw, but I actually started uploading some of the videos to YouTube.
I saw that. I'll subscribe today, you know, I will watch them.
Perfect. Well, if you look at the videos that I have there, this one right here actually has some Wireshark in it. Actually, all three of these have a little bit of Wireshark in it. But the one that I'm posting today will actually have all of the Wednesday's Wireshark in it. So you'll be able to see Wireshark a little bit more in depth on that particular link. There's also, let me go to,
But for the Wireshark, it might be in the VPN, virtual machine. We should work in the Wireshark, or?
for sure, yeah, just in case, especially if you're going to pull any of the files from Wireshark. For instance, if you're working on any of the exercises that I worked on through malware traffic analysis, you definitely want to make sure that you're in a virtual environment, because if you try to pull one of the files down, they're malicious files. You know, they're a Trojan, like for instance, the one we did on Wednesday, that file is a Trojan horse. It's a generic Trojan file. So it's a bad file. You don't want that on your host machine. So if you're gonna play around with that, you want to download that on like your Kali virtual machine. There was, hang on, there was a YouTube. Let's see, give me 1 second. Let me find it real quick. There was a YouTube that could help you out a lot that I found that is really good.
About Wireshark, right?
Yes, specifically about Wireshark. It's actually
Perfect. So also companies be working with the Wireshark just in the virtual environment or normal environment. We should always work with the Wireshark in the virtual environment, or
generally, I mean, you can run Wireshark in a host machine to capture your traffic. For instance, if you're wanting to see if there's any traffic that shouldn't be there, you can absolutely, research that. I think this is it right here. Let me double check. Yeah, this is it. Yeah, this is a pretty awesome video.
it's about 1 hour, right?
Yeah. No, it's actually only 16 minutes.
No, 60 minutes.
Yeah, it's actually really not that long. Here, let me share the link with you.
It's perfect.
Yeah, that's a great video. This guy's really sharp. So that's a good one to look at. So this website here, the malwaretrafficanalysis.net, this is the actual on Wednesday, this is the actual one that we used on Wednesday to do some practice. And if you look at the
I put it in my browser. Yeah, it was great, but I couldn't follow. That's how I stopped.
So the video, I did the video from the beginning on this one. So hopefully, if you follow along with this, it'll help out a lot. But all of the links are still in the agenda at the moment. So if you want to copy those links, I would definitely do that. They are going to go into the agenda archive. As a matter of fact, do I already have them there? Yeah, they're actually already there in the agenda for 12.2. So all of those links are there initially to be able to help you out. So definitely usable for sure. That one is obviously quite long. I mean, we spent 2 hours going through that, and actually we spent more than that. We spent about 2.5 hours because we did a little bit last night. We finished up the last couple of questions. So I would definitely, it takes some time to go through that one, but I would definitely look at those once I get those up there as well, so that you can see that. And I'm actually hoping to get those up there. As a matter of fact, it's on my third screen right now. I actually have the videos that I'm taking the long video and splicing it into smaller ones so that I can share them on YouTube. So those should be up there hopefully today.
Absolutely. I will watch them.
But you understand the point of Wireshark, right?
Last time, little bit. That's why just I wanna. If you give me little bit information now, I will understand. Yeah, but I couldn't catch that. Yeah, I know it's a Wireshark is the network vulnerability scanner.
No.
No.
No. It's a packet capture. So what it does is, for instance, if I have a host machine in my network and it's communicating with a computer outside of the network, there's obviously a network connection between those two computers.
Mm-hmm.
When my host machine sends data to the outside machine or to this endpoint, and this endpoint communicates back and sends data back to my endpoint, all of that network traffic, all of that packet data is going back and forth. Wireshark is capturing that data so that you can analyze it.
From protocols, right?
Yeah, you're basically, how you look at the data and how you kind of dive down into the data is you can look specifically for certain protocols. For instance, HTTP data is unencrypted data on port 80, and it's very easy to see. So you can see the connections with the other endpoints. You can pull certain data from that, like the user data, the host name of the endpoints. You can see the hosts that they actually visited. You can see domain names that they went to. You can see the files that they downloaded, if they downloaded files on port 80. So that's all unencrypted data. So you can see all of that and analyze it and find out what is going on in that communication between those two endpoints. Now, where it gets difficult is if they are communicating across encrypted data, or they're utilizing TLS. You really can't see anything across an encrypted data, so it's a little more difficult in that regard. So Wireshark isn't as beneficial in that point.
I got you.
So yeah, it is a network packet capture tool, and it allows you to analyze that data. Now, to be fair, it's probably more of an analysis tool as opposed to a network capture tool. It does have the network capture capability, but there are other ways to capture the data and then just analyze it with Wireshark. Uh, oh, goodness gracious. My brain just had a brain.
It's more.
Just had a brain dump. I'll think of it. TCP dump. With TCP dump in Linux, you can do a network capture that's actually better than the network capture that Wireshark will do. And then you can still, with TCP dump, you can still create those network capture files and you can analyze them with Wireshark. Some people will do that because the network capture packet or the network capture capabilities of Wireshark maybe isn't as good as TCP dump. So that might be, another way you can use it as well too. But so to be clear, Wireshark is more of a network capture analyzer or analysis tool, but it can capture, and a lot of people will use it for network capture as well.
So I'm sorry, imagine you have a shift in the work you're working.
Mm-hmm.
So when you use Wireshark?
So Wireshark can be used in a couple different ways. It can be used in a sandboxing environment, or your network could have it set up to where you're analyzing the data all the time, and you have those network packet captures that you can pull from and do threat intelligence, threat hunting. You can dive into them all the time. It depends on how it's set up in your network. If, for instance, like if I have a malicious file and I want to see what that file does firsthand, I can take that file and I can actually upload or run that file in my safe environment, my virtual machine, and I can see where does it go, who does it connect to, what IP addresses is it reaching out to. So that's one way you can use it. Again, the other way is you can basically have it, inside of a network and be able to analyze any of the packets and so forth that are coming through your network. So it just depends on how you have it set up.
Okay, because sometimes if they are hiring the company, so is it like the Wireshark is like the site, for example, like VirusTotal, and other tools? Sometimes you use that, but the company, they don't ask you should use VirusTotal or URL, something like that. But Wireshark is like that, or they also set up to your PC, the Wireshark, and then they said, also, this is your tool, you will use that.
Yeah, I mean, Wireshark is a tool that is available for free, so you can pretty much use it whenever you need to use it. It's just having the right, circumstances for it. Your VirusTotal is great for checking IP reputation, and checking the hash. Let's say you find a hash of a file, or you have a hash of a file, being able to check that hash and see if that hash is good or bad. So VirusTotal has its own capabilities. It does that pretty well. Whereas Wireshark is designed for looking at that network communication and being able to analyze it. So, depending on the situation, depending on the type of investigation you're doing or the type of sandboxing you're doing, that's going to determine whether Wireshark is the best tool for you to use at that point.
Okay, so this is not like, the Curadar or Carbon Black. It's a free tool. We can use like VirusTotal and other tools like that. If we need that, we can use that.
Correct. Yeah, and depending on the environment, the company either is going to provide it or allow you access to it, I assume. So in our environment, we use Kali Linux. So, Kali has Wireshark built into it. So that gives us the ability to, and analyze, malicious files that come through in phishing emails to the the email addresses that we all have. So it allows us to analyze that. So, yeah.
Okay. So your company will use Linux or you're using PC?
I don't know yet. Yeah, right now, so far, I'm just kind of touching on it. So yeah, I don't know yet.
Okay.
Still building.
Mm.
So